In early 2021, it was decided that that organisation would no longer seek funding for the programme. That absolutely is not a reflection on how successful the programme was. It was meeting lots of needs within the community. It was really well balanced between community and statutory services. It had got a brilliant name for itself and lots of volunteers sort of knocking on the door wanting to be part of it. And I remember sharing the news with the volunteers, and I honestly can only describe it as heartbreak. We were just absolutely broken, not from a job point of view, but just for the good that the programme does and the volunteers that have invested all the time. That it was horrible sharing that news, and I'd never ever want to have to do that again.
I remember I was really upset when we got told, because I'd just built up all the confidence and done all the training for something I really wanted to do. And then all of a sudden they were like, no, you guys can't do it anymore. And I think everyone was kind of in the same boat when we all found out. But yeah, it was hard, and I didn't really understand why they were getting rid of it when it was so needed and is still needed.
The feeling of like just shock and disappointment, I guess, was just palpable.
Our volunteers became our squad, and they stood up and said, right, what do you need? What do you need from us? So it was only right that we began by investing lots of time and support for them. This was their passion. This was something that they'd give up so many hours free without any payment. So we began with them. We spoke to them. We heard what they wanted to see, what all their ideas. We tried to collect as many as we possibly could. And then we began working on our community links that we'd got in our relationships, just having meetings with people to share the process that we were looking at, where we were, the risks that came with that, the risk to the community as well, not just to us personally. And just conversations, the things that started way back in 2017 in our outreach worker roles, just continuing to plough energy and time into those and letting people know what was at risk of being lost for the community. I think that's sort of where we started.
The relationship that I think all the volunteers have with Emma and Shelley was the thing that kept everyone kind of going while things weren't certain, or just waiting to hear, hoping that we were going to get some funding. But I think everyone loves the programme and they didn't want to see it end.
I think everybody's initial feeling was, as much as we were devastated for ourselves, it was, what about these families? What about these women? What about these babies? Like, how is this even possible? That, because it's, there's not enough of this around the country as there is, without taking away, what little there is already.
And I were really clear that actually, unless we've got enough funding to do this safely and effectively, we need to stop taking referrals.
Without continuation of funding, we couldn't guarantee support beyond, I think it was the end of March at that point. So at the end of the year prior to that, we said, actually, we now can't take referrals with a due date beyond January because we can't provide 12 weeks postnatal support that we would normally. So we were very clear with what referrals we could take. We gradually reduced, and even at that point when we were doing assessments and things, we made it very clear to the parent that we could only provide support up until the end of March. We'd set a date prior to the very end of March so that we've got time to tie everything up. But they could be clear what to expect, and if anything changed for the better, then we would of course offer what we could, but that was all that we could guarantee we could offer at that point. So we were really transparent with any referrals that came through at that point. We didn't just keep taking them. It was a gradual process to make sure that it remained ethical and safe.
people that could were all doing online support like I do every Monday on the Facebook group. So the Facebook group still had like a lot of consistency because volunteers have their slots. So the parents you get to know them if they're commenting regularly. So it was quite nice that you would get like regular people who will come on when they know that you're on and things, and you can read through other people so you stay up to date with it all. But yeah, it's nice that we still had the consistency of the groups, but we knew Emma and Shelley were there if something came up and we couldn't do it anymore. So even though the programme wasn't there like it was before, Emma and Shelley were always there whenever you needed them in the same way. So I think that kept everyone going.
I did enjoy watching the Facebook group build up because at first it was very quiet and you'd write posts and you wouldn't get a response and you'd worry you were doing the wrong thing. But then you slowly began to see people getting more involved, and that was nice to see.
Obviously, hearing the news that by the end of May we would need to have lifted and shifted the programme, we'd got by that point it was probably about 4 weeks from the point that we were sort of agreed that we could lift and shift to lift and shift. Realistically, that was never going to happen in terms of finances and getting all the systems in place that needed to be to run a safe and effective peer support programme. So we were really fortunate in the sense that we've got working relationships with yourselves at Parents First, and thankfully you stepped in and supported with us to apply for a small tender for a small piece of work, so a 3-month piece of work on behalf of the local CCG. Absolutely, that I don't think that would have ever been possible if we hadn't had your support, because we were not in a place where we'd got the things like a bank account, we'd got the insurance, the devices that we even needed to be able to do that piece of work. And actually that small piece of work kept our volunteers involved. It gave them something to still be involved in so that they didn't feel lost. So as much as we knew we were working our backsides off trying to secure things, for them, they've sort of been in limbo for quite a while. So actually having a piece of work for them to have the option of being involved in, it meant some additional training that they could take part in. It meant speaking to some women and families. It gave them an opportunity to utilise the skills that they loved using to make a difference for others. And that sort of bought us the time to have the key conversations with others about ongoing funding and to set up as a standalone community interest company.
I do think it was the work that we put in and the programme itself, like the work that the programme does with those key professionals, like as in the frontline people who actually get to see what the work is, them champion what we do to their bosses. So it's not us going in and saying actually this service makes an absolute difference, which it does. It's other people and those relationships that we've built up, our continuity of carer team, our drug and alcohol midwives, our mental health specialist midwives, all of those key people who actually get to see it. Like Em says, you can't always explain what it is that peer support and how it all works because it looks so different for everybody, but having those people behind us, and actually some of those initial conversations equally, whilst the volunteers had given us like that little bit of hope, actually maybe we can do this, having those conversations with the professionals who were also invested and gave us a bit of confidence in ourselves and said, you know, we're behind you as well. So our squad, like we say, was getting bigger and bigger, and that's really powerful, I think.
I honestly can't sing our commissioners' praises enough. They are the most down-to-earth, understanding people we've come across in this field. They are very open with us, lots of open conversation, very appreciative of the work that we do and appreciative of volunteers as well.
I can't wait for the next cohort to get their opportunity. You know, it would have been such a shame if they wouldn't have had it, but I think they're actually in a really strong position now that they're going to be set off on their journey with a programme that's much stronger than it's ever been, more control than it's ever had, that their start looks completely different to what my start did. It's evolved so much, and it is testament to these two ladies that are not very good at taking compliments and always say, oh no, it's the volunteers, which yes, we contribute just as much as they do, but it is a very much a team effort. But without them two championing, we wouldn't be where we are now.
What these guys do is above and beyond, and they are members of the community as well, and the impact on them, if that's not taken into consideration, I think is really key.
They think and consider us really well and feedback to us all the time, and again want us to feed back to them. So yeah, I think, you know, we've got a really good partnership with them. We're
obviously a very small team anyway, but then we couldn't have done all of the transition and all of the support and kept sort of, it's a bit like the compound effect, isn't it? Just little and often. We couldn't have kept that going without our team of amazing volunteers and staying updated. We still put on some mini training sessions and things throughout that period, and they came to it. They came to supervisions, one-to-ones, everything, and they still committed to that. Without that, we would be building back from a much smaller place at this point.